Guys, don't worry about me. My arm is only slightly fractured. What bothers me most isn't the injury itself, but the thought of how worried my family will be when they see it. The last thing I want is for them to be anxious because of me. I've reassured them now. I want to say that we should all yearn for peace. I was forcibly dragged out the door, trying my best not to be violently taken away. I don't hate the police officers who stopped me. They were just following orders. What really angered me was Tim Sheehy. If he hadn't grabbed my leg and forcibly pulled me off the doorframe, my arm wouldn't be injured. It wasn't just physical pain, but a sense of humiliation and powerless oppression. I know what happened today will seem crazy to many people, but I had to stand up. This incident has made me rethink what freedom is. I used to think that everyone in America had the right to express their opinions, but when I actually stood there, all I felt was indifference and humiliation. If this is freedom, then I really don't know who this freedom.
Today, at a U.S. Senate hearing, veteran Brian McGinnis was removed by police while protesting. During the process, he became agitated and refused to cooperate, leading to a violent physical altercation with officers at a doorway. During the struggle, his left arm was severely fractured and 3 officers were injured. Police said McGinnis continued to strongly resist after being asked to leave, and the confrontation ultimately resulted in his serious injuries. Following the incident, McGinnis was rushed to the hospital and underwent surgery for a comminuted fracture in his left arm. He later confirmed the injuries on social media, saying the arm suffered severe nerve and joint damage and may face permanent functional impairment. While the incident drew some sympathy online, authorities have filed multiple charges against McGinnis, including 3 felony counts of assault on a police officer, 3 counts of resisting arrest, and 1 count of unlawful demonstration. Prosecutors said his actions disrupted order at the Capitol and posed a direct threat to officers at the scene. Currently, the motive behind McGinnis's protest remains unclear, and the case is under investigation. Today, at a U.S. Senate hearing, veteran Brian McGinnis was removed by police while protesting. During the process, he became agitated and refused to cooperate, leading to a violent physical altercation.
A U.S. Senator just broke the hand of a Marine! A U.S. Senator just broke the hand of a Marine! You're a coward. Punk. Fuck yourself. What'd you say? Senator? Go fuck yourself. You were a shit seal. That's why you got kicked out. Fat ass. Everybody sit down, please. Sit down, please. Everybody sit down, please. Everybody sit down, please.
Can I just see? I'm getting out of here.
That's fine. Everybody sit down, please. Is your hand okay?
No, it's not.
This is disgusting. Disgusting.
Take a good look at his face. Republican Senator Tim Sheehy from Montana.
Everything around us is turning really fake. Where's all the real humans? You know, I used to sit here and laugh about the fake models, actors they were using in daytime television and these lawyer commercials and money commercials and stuff, all these fake actors, synthetics. They're all over the place. Fox News, the whole network has been throwing out humans for replacing them with synthetics for a while now. These plastic synthetics, because they can be possessed and controlled by demons and aliens. They can be used as hosts for other entity beings to take over them. And so you sit and watch TV and you're watching somebody's face melt. They start shifting and morphing. Yeah, that's because it's a fake human possessed by an entity. And it's bad. All the actors in Hollywood, most of them have been replaced. People are talking about the Jim Carrey meltdowns. That's because that's not the real one. It's not the real one. They're trying to tell you. They sold out to Satan, and now they all regret it. But you know what? Most of them are dead. But the clones that they keep cloning off the original ones have those same feelings from the original host that they're being cloned of. I've explained that. A lot of them have been replaced. I think 500 of them were killed in 2012. Anyway, folks, time's already up. Yeah, bless.
So much to live for. It's me, you numpty. Asshole! Seeing your faces again will spell trouble. Wait. I know it's really you. Because I'm the only one who's going to tell you the truth about you and Haven. Now, do you recall the events of the evening of June the 22nd, 1990? No. But I know what it does. That was the night they arrived. Remember the shooting star? That was them. Nothing happened at first. They were getting ready, burrowing in underground, preparing. Not long after you lot left, people started to change. Just one or two at first, then more. They've replaced people of influence, taking over the institutions, remaking, remodeling, refurbishing, doing everything they could to make us join them. It's not like the replacements were evil. Far from it. People got a lot friendlier. That's how they do it. It's not an invasion. It's a merger. They don't want to get rid of us, not if they can help it. They just want to make us more like them. Change the way we think. Bring us into line with all the others. Become another link in their chain. Which is fine, unless you say no. That's when you get replaced. Once they get your DNA, they've got you. How do they do that? Any way they like. Blood tests, litmus, sweat, kissing, saliva on the rim of a glass. Why do you think I agree with this crazy straw? Not so crazy now, is it? If you're not on their side, they'll create a version of this.
Desolate in the astonishment, and these nations shall serve the king of Babylon 70 years.
In Matthew 13:24-30, Jesus presented the riddle of the wheat and tares. There are 4 main points to this. First, he says the kingdom of heaven is like a man who sowed good seed in his field. Second, the enemy of that man came and sowed tares among the wheat. This tells us that the good seed was wheat, and the word translated as tares, number 22:15, refers specifically to darnel. Also known as poison darnel, this plant looks almost identical to wheat until the ear appears. This leads into the third point. The wheat and tares will grow together until the harvest, and at the harvest, the tares will be bound together into bundles, and the wheat will be gathered together into the barn. So who are the wheat, and who are the tares who look like them but are not? Verse 38 tells us the good seed, or wheat, represent the children of the kingdom, the enemy is the devil, and the tares represent the children of the wicked one. Matthew chapters 7 and 10 explain this in a different way. Chapter 10 verse 16 says, I send you forth as sheep in the midst of wolves. And chapter 7 verse 15 says, there are those who wear the clothing of the sheep, but inside are wolves. There are 2 major points to this. First, there are more wolves than sheep, because he does not say the wolves are among the sheep, but rather the sheep are among the wolves. And second, the wolves don't just pretend to be sheep, they're wearing the clothing of the sheep. This is a reference to the defiled garment spotted by scaly flesh. In Jude 1:4, we're told there are certain men who crept in unawares, and these men are the angels who did not keep their first estate in verse 6, and they are twice dead in verse 12. This is a reference to the angels of Sardis in Revelation 3:1, who have a name that they live, but they are dead. Verse 4 explains that most of the angels of Sardis wear defiled garments. The angels of Sardis are one of the 7 angels in Revelation 1-3. The 7 angels refer to the 7 stars, Revelation 1:20, which are the Pleiades star system as evident in Amos 5:8 and Job 9:9. Jude also clarifies the reference in saying that these certain men who crept in unawares are wandering stars, verse 13, and without fruit, verse 12. The garment that they wear is the garment spotted by the flesh, Jude 1:23. The flesh is strange flesh, verse 7, and more specifically, it's the flesh of Leviathan in Job 41. Verse 13 asks, who can discover the face of Leviathan's garment? And verse 15 explains that Leviathan's flesh is made of scales. So this is the reference to the serpent, and Revelation 12:9 tells us the serpent is the devil. So the serpent, or devil, sowed its children, the tares, that look like the wheat but are not. And how do these tares look like wheat? They wear a clothing or garment that they use as a disguise. The wolves wear a clothing that makes them look like sheep. The garment, though, is spotted. We go into this in much more detail in the videos on the image. The image is used by the enemy to impersonate humans, and this is how they crept in unawares. They are the fallen angels who left their own home, and that home apparently was the Pleiades star system. These tares, or wolves, Jude also tells us do not have fruit in verse 12. In Matthew 7:16, Jesus says you will know them by their fruit, then asks, do men gather grapes of thorns or figs of thistles? In other words, the tares produce thorns and thistles, not fruit at all. So you will know them by their lack of fruit. This is why Jude 1:12 says they do not have fruit. So these tares will grow among the wheat, and they look like wheat, and cannot be differentiated except by their fruit or lack thereof. And this fruit does not appear until near the harvest. So at the harvest, the tares will be bound together in bundles, and the wheat gathered into the barn. The barn represents God's house, and the binding is explained in code in Matthew 16:18 through 23. In short, it says Peter will build the church, verse 18, be given the keys to heaven, and whatever is bound on earth will be bound in heaven. Then Jesus says Peter is Satan, verse 23. In other words, the church, built by Satan, will be one of the binding mechanisms by which the tares are bound together. But this does not mean everyone in the church is a tare. There's no question that the tares are not human. Haggai 2 also goes into this. In verse 19 it says, is the seed yet in the barn? Then goes on to explain that the vine, fig tree, pomegranate, and olive tree have not brought forth. In other words, they have not brought forth fruit. Then it adds in verse 22 that God will overthrow the kingdom of the heathen. Psalm 59:1-8 says the heathen make a noise like a dog, which may explain why they are also referred to as wolves. In Genesis 3:7, we're told the hybrids sewed together the branch of the fig tree when they married humans. This is how they mingle with the seed of humans in Daniel 2:43. They are the fallen angels mating with humans in Genesis 6:2-4, and they're doing this by disguising themselves as human. This is a very deep study into the image of Revelation 13, the clothing of light, the attire of the breathing substance of human bodies, the changeable suits of apparel, etc. The tares are not native to this star system or this earth, and they disguise their appearance. The wheat are those who are not wearing a disguise. Looked at the mystery of the locusts in the Bible. They are a great people who have teeth like lions, who cannot be wounded by the sword, who are thieves who sneak into windows at night. In Joel 2 and Revelation 9, we can clearly see that these locusts are not human. They have the shape of horses. In Proverbs 30, we saw the connection between the locusts and the horse leech, the vampire-like demon also referred to as the adulterous woman, which we know as Babylon the Great, and also their connection to Lilith in Isaiah 34, the ancient Sumerian vampire who, according to medieval folklore, was Adam's wife. This connects us back to Adam's wife, according to the Bible. Adam represents all humans, Genesis 1:27 and 5:2, and Adam's wife is the Isha, who we're told in Genesis 2:21 was created from the cells of Adam. In other words, the Isha is a hybrid being created from human cells. Genesis 2:23 then tells us the flesh of the Isha will be chosen, and the Isha will marry the humans. This flesh of the Isha is the strange flesh that the people of Sodom go after, Jude 1:7. This marriage between the hybrids and the humans sews together the branch of the fig tree, explained in the alternate translation of Genesis 3:7. The fig tree sprouts forth leaves at the start of the final generation, according to Jesus in Matthew 24:32-34, and a generation is 70 years in Psalm 90:10. Remember, Proverbs 30:14 tells us there is one generation of these vampire creatures, and that generation appears to be the final generation. In Daniel 2:43, we're told they shall mingle themselves with the seed of humans, and this mingling, it says, will occur at the time of the little horn during the feet of the image. In other videos, we investigated the little horn and found that it is the little country of Israel,